do. How many ton fit on a truckload of hay? Is it 40? 32. You guys deliver to Colville? 240 miles one way. I'm going to leave my cattle up. I'm going to sell the majority of the cattle and leave 25 head up there. Let my grandkids feed them over the winter.
Oh, I turned mine. We good? Good morning. It is September 24th. We're here for our regular scheduled county commissioner meeting. We have a full slate of commissioners. We have Mr. Danzel, our administrator, and our Teresa, our clerk of the board. So at this time, I'll call the meeting to order and ask everybody to please rise and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. Always good to hear a robust Pledge of Allegiance. Good job. So, first item on the agenda is the adoption of the current agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
We had a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? We needed to add an item, didn't we?
Well, I thought you were going to move an item from consent, and then also potentially add an item.
Yes.
Just one moment, Mr. Chairman.
We're also going to add an item too. What was the item that we needed to add? That's right, VSO. You got the resolution for the advertisement of the VSO?
There's a copy. You can keep this one.
So, Mr. Mullen, would you pull back your...
I'll redact my motion.
Okay, look for a new motion for the adoption of the current agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I would propose that we would amend the agenda before us to move item number 3 that is on consent agenda, move that to regular business, the renewal of the employment agreement with the HR director, and then to add an item to the consent agenda, and that item would be a resolution of the Franklin County Board of Commissioners approving the creation of a veteran service officer position, establishing a pay range, and delegating authority to the county administrator for immediate action.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to take item number 3 from the consent agenda to regular business and adding an item to the consent agenda for hiring of a VSR, Veteran Service Officer, VSO, to the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
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 Takes us down to public comment. Is there anybody on the phone or anybody that would like to come forward for public comment? Would you like to say something? Before we get started here, I would like to let our administrator speak to the concerns that I see are in the room.
Yeah, thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I would just I was going to do this in my update, but I thought I'd probably be more meaningful and make more sense to do it now. I think I understand the reason why a lot of folks are here and probably wanting to give commentary. I don't want to dissuade them from giving commentary. I would just say that after the events of last week, I was able to yesterday sit down with Kyle Sullivan and Matt Rasmussen from Benton County. They're going to continue to process all the vouchers and payments to all the programs, but particularly the veterans. I know there was folks that were worried about that. And we're looking at a way of sitting down in a good faith effort to renegotiate the human services contract. I think that there was admissions on both sides that communications could have been better. I don't know that it's going to yield a result that will mean that we stay in that agreement. But I just think for the betterment of folks to know that are here today that are probably likely going to speak to this subject matter, that they should have that information and that you should have that information. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So with that, we'll move forward with public comment.
Hello, my name is Angel Linda from the PTC. I got a question. How are you going to support the families of Pasco after cutting off with Ben Franklin, no, Ben City County? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for explaining that. So we have practiced very hard for on our self-advocacy skills, and they wanted to share how the services affected them. So if it's okay, I'd like to let them have that time. We've got a few of them speaking. They shouldn't be very long, but they're going to tell you a little bit about who they are and what the services that they have benefited from. And we've been practicing all week and speaking, so this is a really big deal for our students.
We encourage it. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your efforts in resolving this issue. It was very concerning for our students and for their families to not have a understanding moving forward. All right, so I'm going to actually go ahead and let them begin since you heard from me last week.
My name is Stephanie Winton. I am a student at Pasco Transit Center, and I would like to know how Franklin County will have personal support services. Child support, I have personal and Special Olympics. Child disciplinary development services at present parent-to-parent programs and transit services. These services are important to my services life. Thank you.
My name is Lily Miller, and I am a student at the Pasco Transition Center. I would like to know how Franklin County's plan on how they will provide disability services. I have participated in job foundations, transition services, child development services, as well as school to work. These services are very important to my success as an adult. Thank you for your time.
My name is Jacob Campbell. I am a student at the Pasco Transition Center, and I would like to know how Franklin County will provide disability support services. I have participated in child development services. I'm asking you to share your plan for these services. Thank you. Thank you.
My, my, my name is Olga Orashko. I am a student at the Pasco Transit Center, and I would like to know how Franklin County will be private disability support service. I want to participate in shop efficiency and to work schoolwork program. These services are important to my success in life. I am asking you to share your plan for how there will be provided and to Franklin County resident. Thank you.
My name is Roberto Ramirez Estrada. I am a student at the Pasco Transition Center, and I would like to know how Franklin County will provide disability support services. I have participated in Special Olympics. Disability services are important to my success in life. I'm asking you to share your plan for Franklin County residents. Thank you. Justice is served.
My name is Celia Miller. I'm a student at the Pasco Transition Center, and I would like to know how Franklin County will provide disability support services. I participate in transition support services. These services are important to my success. I am asking you to share your plan for Franklin County residents. Thank you.
My name is Jake Hammerstrom. I am a student of Pasco Transition Center, and I would like to know how Franklin County will provide disability support services. I have participated in transition support services. These services are important to my success in life. I am asking you to share your plan for how the services will be provided to Franklin County residents. Thank you.
My name is Rafael Garcia. I am a student at the Pasco Transition Center, and I would like to know Franklin County plans for disability services. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Elio Amazon. I go to the Pasco Transit Center. I would like to know your plan for disability support services. I am fascinated in job variations and schoolwork. Parents, those these are referred to success. Please share your planning for Franklin County within detail.
My name is Silas Lyman. I am a student at the Pasco Transition Center, and I would like to know how Franklin County will provide disability support services. I'm participating in Job Foundation's transition support services and will participate in school to work. These services are important to my success. I'm asking you to share your plan for how you will provide them to Franklin County residents. Thank you.
My name is Jonathan Thompson. I am a student at the Pasco Transition Center, and I would like to know how Franklin County will provide disability support services. I am participating in Job Foundations, the Schoolwork Program, and the Transition Support Service. These services are important to my success in life. I'm asking you to share your plans for how the service will be provided to Franklin County residents. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Carlos Leon. Pasco Transition Center. I've had child development services. Thank you. Nice job, Carlos.
Hello, my name is Dave Carlson. I'm a student at the Pasco Transit Center. I participate. Okay. This is special. Aeropace.
Olympics.
Job.
Foundations.
Job and foundations. Okay. And to school to work. These services are important to my success as an adult. Please share your plan for these services and Franklin. Captain, thank you for your time.
Nice work.
All right. My name is Janet Abiasa. I am a student at the Pasco Transition Center, and I would like to know how Franklin County will provide disability support services. I want to participate in some special Olympics. This service is important to my city and life. I am asking you to share your plan for how these services will be applied to Franklin County listened. Thank you.
My name is Lizzie Titado. I go to the Paco Transit Center. I did visiting Olympics. Please share your plans. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brian Leal. I am a student at the Pasco Transition Center, and I would like to know how Franklin Country will provide disability service to residents. I participated in the parent to parent program and Special Olympics. I plan to participate in Jobs Foundation at school to work. These services are important to my success as an adult. I am asking you to share your plan for Franklin Country. Thank you for your time.
My name is Hannah Martin. I am a student at the Pasco Transition Center, and I would like to know how Franklin County will provide disability support services. I am participating in transition support services, job foundations, and school to work. These services are important to my success in life. I am asking you to share your plan for how these services will be provided in Franklin County residents. Thank you.
My name is Xander Garcia. I am a student at the Pasco Transition Center, and I would like to know how Franklin County will provide disability support services. I have participated in Special Olympics. Disability services are important to my success in life. I am asking you to share your plan for Franklin County residents. Thank you.
Thank you for your time and allowing our students to self-advocate for themselves.
We're not supposed to interact, but I would just like to say you all did a great job. Thank you. And if I may call for a 5-minute recess, because I think the other commissioners would also like to thank you for coming in and sharing with us. So
Thank you,
we'll
Mr. Chairman. I'd like to go shake their hand.
Yes, we'll take a 5-minute recess.
I'm Lily. Nice to meet you. Thank you. Hi, I'm Lily. Nice to meet you.
Okay. We are back from a 5-minute recess, and we'll reconvene the meeting, and we're still in public comment. Is there anybody else for public comment?
Thank you for the 5-minute break and actually speaking to your citizens. I was a lifeguard at a special needs camp in Jackson County in my high school to college years. What I would encourage the board to do as you go back and review with Benton County is to look at the Envision Center concept that Ben, can't say his last name. He served in the previous administration. He designed a system where counties and cities came together and they paid for office space and computers. And then people from all the different agencies and all the different NGOs and grants came and served in those offices from their buildings. And the person was evaluated, and this is a Workforce Investment Act situation, Ben Carson. And then that person was taken to all the different agencies that they were evaluated for. They met those needs, and they were made sure that they got those needs. So one group wasn't holding on to their grants and monies, and another one was running out and not getting them. And so I do think there's a redundancy of service here that maybe both counties could benefit from. Workforce Investment Act does have a program for exactly these kinds of students that do go in and serve jobs at the shredding agency, Goodwill, a number of places. There's also Job Corps, which has a camp for kids. And I would advocate for that to find a third right answer that suits both counties and 3 cities or 4 cities, as it were, with us paying our proper amount and not more, but also making sure that we have our Workforce Investment Act funds from the state. Mr. Ferguson is cutting left, right, and center, and from the federal government. I think you'll find a good solution. Thank you for your time.
Is there anybody else for public comment?
I just want to put a comment out for record regarding what we just saw. At what point does something become more important than what you just saw? That's it.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
My name is Luis Lopez Terrazas.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment?
I didn't plan on this. Human Services has multiple grants that they bring in. They have multiple programs. I was very impressed when I've talked to them over the years working in admin. Definitely something I would give second thought to because of the services they do provide, the monies that they get because of what they do. It includes homelessness, some of the programs they talked about, and multiple past that. I mean, it's amazing at what they do, so definitely think about it.
Anybody else for public comment? Anybody on the phones? Seeing nobody else come forward, we'll move down to the approval of the consent agenda. We have 7 items on the consent agenda, removing item 3 to regular business and adding a consent item, VSO officer hiring.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of consent agenda items 1 through 7 as amended.
Second.
Been a motion and a second for the approval of the consent agenda items 1 through 7. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Takes us down to regular business. Resolution 2025-276, adopting the Franklin County Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA Transition Plan, presented by Craig Erdman. But Craig's not here.
Craig, I'm sorry for my voice today. Craig is at a conference right now, so I'm in.
Okay.
This plan covered multiple departments we're looking at throughout Franklin County. I mean, I spoke with the clerk's office, I spoke with the court administrator, facilities, IS. I mean, pretty much touch base with most of the departments to see what type of programs are in place for ADA transition. This is a requirement because we do get federal grants throughout Franklin County. But at the same time, it really spans throughout the county and all the services that we provide to make sure that those with disabilities have the opportunity to have all access to services and to gaining information that they may, want to know about. So again, it's something that's very, very important. It really was an eye-opener for me at how many services that we are providing, iPads that will do closed captioning, this meeting here, closed captioned on YouTube. There's a lot of audio aids in courts. They actually have iPads they're going to be receiving for closed captioning as well. So just having a hand wave for doors for opening for people in wheelchairs or any disabilities. I know families use those as well because they have their arms full of kids. But I really was impressed. We don't have much as far as Franklin County, as far as sidewalks. We have like 1,000 feet of sidewalk and 1,000 feet of a path in Basin City. Most of this transition plan was for unincorporated, simply because Pasco, having a majority of the population, also needs to report. And I sent a copy of their transition plan also. But again, it's very important, something that we need to do not only for the grants, but most importantly for the citizens to make sure that they all have access as needed. This plan is on our homepage of our website, and I'll keep it on there for quite a while, and it comes to my email if anyone wants to make any comments or anything, simply because this is something that's just continual. You know, if there's a service or some accessibility that's not what it should be, then we need to know so we can fix it. So, again, any questions regarding the ADA plan?
Questions, commissioners?
No questions.
If there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of Resolution 2025-276 as presented.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for Resolution 2025-276. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Takes us down to item B, which is the renewal of employment agreement with the HR director. And at this time, I believe we'll need to go into executive session. Would you mind calling that out, Mr. Danzel, or Mr. Briggs?
I believe this would be under RCW 4230-110-1I, potential litigation.
And time? And who is in the room?
I'd be myself, Mackenzie Lloyd from my office, and then the board.
And for how?
And the county administrator as well.
10 minutes?
10 minutes. Oh, 10 minutes.
Okay, we'll go into executive session for 10 minutes at this time. Thank you. Do we want to stay in the room here or go downstairs? Okay, let's go downstairs. So we're going to recess. Let's recess into executive session at 9:37. Give us a minute to get down there, and we'll be out at 9:40.
Good morning. It is 9:47, and on behalf of the commissioners, I'm reconvening the regular meeting to extend it for 13 additional minutes under the same RCW 42-30-1101I. At this time, our meeting is scheduled to resume at 10. It is almost 10 a.m. I should wait for 10. It is 10 a.m. At this time, I'm reconvening the regular meeting to extend it for 10 minutes under the same RCW 42301101I, potential litigation. At this time, our meeting is scheduled to resume at 10:10.
We're back from executive session with no decisions being made. I believe we have some action items, motions.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
in relationship to item B under regular business, the renewal of the agreement with HR Director Margot Wilder, I move to not renew the employment agreement with our HR Director Margot Wilder.
Second.
There's been a motion, a second, not to renew the agreement with our HR Director, Margot Wilder. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Mr. Chairman, I move to delegate authority to our County Administrator Brian Danzel to negotiate with Margot Wilder and determine a new position for her within Franklin County.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for our HR, or our Administrator, Mr. Danzel, to work with Ms. Wilder trying to find another position within the county. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 And one more, Mr. Chairman, I move to appoint our County Administrator Brian Danzel or his designee as acting HR Director.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for Mr. Danzel to be the acting, or anybody he asserts to be the HR Director. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Mr. Chairman, would you be willing to allow a point of personal privilege?
Yes.
Just want to say thank you to Margot for her more than 20 years of service to Franklin County, and when Franklin County was in need a few years ago, she stepped up to fill a position, and just wanted to say a sincere thank you to her for filling that role and for all that she has done in that role since then, and just want to say I really appreciate her for that and look forward to this next step and just in a different position.
Commissioner Mullen, anything to add?
Same thoughts as Mr. Bauman has there. I appreciate all of her time, and hopefully we can find a position within the county.
Yes, in our time of need, Margot stepped up and helped us through a pretty rough spot, and I really appreciate that, and I appreciate her 20 years of service to Franklin County, and I hope that she will be able to continue on with Franklin County in another position. So with that, we will move on to Commissioner Administrator updates. Mr. Danzel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's been a couple of things that happened, today that I would like to maybe mention and discuss just a little bit. The first is what a great job by those kids that came in today and read their statements. I think one of the unfortunate parts about some of the work that we do is just the amount of information that goes out and the clarity with which the information goes out. But the way it works is, and to answer a lot of the questions I think that were had about what was our plan, there's a misnomer out there right now that the human services contract is the same thing as the joint agreements that both Benton and Franklin County have with the state of Washington, both through the Department of Commerce and the Department of Social Health Services, to provide those services. And so, and then furthermore, I'd like to say again, had a great conversation with Kyle Sullivan and Matt Rasmussen. We talked about this very thing. We discussed, if we can make it work, what would that look like? And we agreed to another meeting to sit down and discuss the issues. And if it doesn't work, what would that look like? And talking about doing it in a way that wouldn't be so, fast and have so many folks wondering, like today, what would happen. But there was misnomers out there, like, a couple people had spoken about the homelessness or from the Department of Commerce. That's still in place. That doesn't just go away. So I wanted to mention that because I think that people are being given a certain set of information. And I'm just an optimist. I'm an optimist that we were going to do the right thing by the people of Franklin County, and I'm an optimist that we can discuss, like we did here yesterday, where the veterans were being sent to our office. And now that's been straightened out, and the veterans are getting full service. One of the reasons that I asked for the VSO position is in case it doesn't work out, but I think it's gonna. So I just wanted to kind of respond to that because several conversations about how we could make this thing work have taken place, and I appreciate everybody's opinions on that. I appreciate so much the kids coming in and speaking. I thought that was impressive. Although, like I say, I think if everybody had the full information, it could have kind of probably prevented them from even having to show up today. But again, enjoyed having everyone here. Met with each commissioner to discuss the agenda. Met with Prosecuting Attorney Sant and Chief Civil Deputy Prosecuting Attorney Jeff Briggs on Friday to discuss issues. It was a good meeting. Met with Larry Leisure for a general update on HAPO. Met with the auditor staff to discuss financial policies. Those draft financial policies are near completion. I think we've sent it to Information Services and the Treasurer's staff. They've reviewed portions of the policy that would apply to them or affect them, and they will be. It'll be ready for a submission anyway shortly. Council Briggs had counseled us that we do need to have a hearing and we need to post for it on those draft financial policies. So we'll need the 2 weeks at least to Clerk Alvarez to advertise for that. Appreciate that, by the way, Council Briggs. Met with the new city administrator of Pasco, Harold Stewart. I look forward to working with Mr. Stewart and the many years of leadership he brings to the region. Really a straight shooter. Enjoyed really getting to know him. He's a family man. He's had a little bit of experience everywhere, and so it was good to get to meet him and set up that relationship. I'm going to be passing down 4 documents for your consideration. It's based on things that you all have been asking about before. The first one is, and I'll give Jeff a copy of this too, or Council Briggs. I'm going to get better at using the correct name. This is the signature policy. So we've talked about this before. This is something that would require any kind of grant, any kind of contract, any kind of anything that that expends major county funds or requires budgetary oversight, that it comes to the board chairman for signature. It's something that if you could consider it and let me know if this is something that you're interested in. It's done in other counties. It's obviously not ready to be acted upon here today, but I just wanted to give it to you just in case. There's a standard operating procedure in many counties, and it helps with a few things. First and foremost, you're the fiduciaries of the county, and ultimately the board is responsible for budgetary matters. But second, and maybe most importantly, it creates an environment where the board will better understand the grants, for example, in each department, and will prioritize collaboration between elected officials, department heads, and the board of commissioners. And it'll also help answer that age-old question of, if this was originally funded with a grant, are we going to be able to pay for it with current expense? You'll have more of an understanding because it'll all be coming before you. The second is the 25-year-old Code of the West. This was passed in Franklin County in the year 2000. I'm going to hand that to Commissioner Bauman, and then I'll ask him to pass that down. Commissioner Mullen, you had brought up an interesting question about range areas and open range. And so there are 2 documents that kind of speak to that. One is the Code of the West, one is the Right to Farm Ordinance. And then you have a document, a ordinance that went away from that, and I'll tell you exactly what that means. So, in the legislature, evidently about 20 years ago, they completely took out open range from all the WACs and all the RCWs, and so now there are it's range areas and stock restricted areas. Well, Franklin County has on the books, and I'll send this down. This is the language here. Has on the books, and this is just the language. It's not the actual resolution itself because it was not in very good shape. I had to recreate this, but this is, and I have highlighted for you where some of our trouble areas are. And basically, the idea is that range areas are supposed to be not near metropolitan areas, but stock prohibited areas are supposed to have a 2 square mile minimum. Actually, to be honest with you, a lot of the folks that live in the unincorporated areas that are near the Pasco city boundary lines would kind of fit in one of these. And there's a major distinction in that the requirement for legal fencing back when it was open range no longer exists. Now the impetus is on the owner of the stock. And so it's completely reversed from what it used to be back when we were growing up, as it were. So just wanted to give you that. Not the best news in the world, I understand, but I just, in looking into it, wanted to be able to provide that information. The Code of the West is an interesting one. It's a resolution that was passed by many farming and ag production-centric counties around that time. It was actually originally chronicled by the famous author Zane Grey, if you've ever read any of his. Here's kind of the idea behind it. The men and women who came to this part of the country during westward expansion were bound by an unwritten code of conduct. The values of integrity and self-reliance guided their decisions, actions, and interactions. And keeping with that same spirit, we offer this information to help the citizens of Franklin County who wish to follow in the footsteps of those rugged individualists and live outside the metropolitan area. And then further in, this is, I think, very, very pertinent too. This document is not intended to dissuade you from living in the country, but it's important for you to know that life in the country is very different than life in a metropolitan area. It goes on to prepare our citizens who may move in from out of town that there are certain challenges and opportunities that arise from living in the more rural areas in the country lifestyle. I think the big thing here, and this has been mentioned before, we need to get in the hands of our real estate agents and our realtors and our brokers and our developers so that they know that, hey, when you move here and you're out in the rural outlying areas, not to expect the same level of services if you move from Bellevue or if you have Bellingham or Seattle or any metropolitan area, really. The final one is a safety guide, employee safety guide that we've been kicking this around for a long time. If I could send that down and have you gentlemen look at that. And kind of my wish would be, if you look at these documents and you wanted to provide me direction on exactly where to go with them, because I'm pretty sure I know that you're looking for the signature policy, but is it time to update the Code of the West? I think there's certain things that we could update within that, and then, are there any other things that you want attached to either the right to farm ordinance, the Code of the West, or taking a look at these range areas? I know the range areas are going to be something you want to look at and correct and fix immediately. So we will have that available and ready to do in the quickest amount of time possible. I believe it does require posting and a 2-week posting time. So I'll work with you all on that. I'm sorry that my response was a little longer. I thought that given the nature of how the meeting began, that it deserved a little bit more of an explanation on where things stood. And with that, I will quit talking now.
Thank you, Mr. Danzel. Commissioner Baumann.
I know I've seen it on your faces last week, your disappointment at my short report. So I'll try to not disappoint you so much this week.
I'm holding my breath.
Went to the funeral last week of a longtime farmer in Franklin County, Roger Wolf. R&S Farms, I think the first time I remember seeing Roger's a mountain of a man. I think he was 6'6" and was just a mountain of a man, and was one of my dad's best friends for as long as I can remember. And I remember Roger probably starting when I was about 5 years old. And I learned a lot of the things I learned. I worked for Roger for a period of time in custom harvesting, and learned how to run a swing swather and bale and lots of things. A fond memory that I still remember when I smell the smell of either fresh mowed hay or hay that's ready to bale, that it always takes me back to a circle that Roger rented from Fran Thomas, and I bunched up some hay and laid my sleeping bag in it and slept there until I felt the dew on my face and it was time to bail. And I worked the longest work week that I've ever had in my life. I believe, not counting, when you're on a farm, you don't get to count any travel time or any of that kind of stuff. Lunch breaks rarely exist, and I think I recorded 109 hours on a time card, and we didn't work Sundays. So that's in 6 days, I think I worked 109 hours for Roger, and Roger was amazing. Roger was an example to me for a long time. His family is still pillars in this community, and Roger will be missed. So thank you, Roger, for your influence in my life. Also last week, Legislative Steering Committee meeting, Washington State Association of Counties, working on the 2026 legislative priorities. Also had the opportunity, was invited to the Columbia Basin Vet Center, as our administrator talked about some of the challenges the veterans faced this last week that really disappointed me, but it was even closer to my heart as I was at the vet center this last week as they unveiled a Purple Heart parking space, and the whole parking space is painted purple in honor of those that have been wounded in defense of our country. And so a question and a request of my two fellow commissioners is would you support, and I'll do some work on this and I can bring back a report, but I think it would be appropriate to designate a parking space in our parking lot for veterans. They did theirs specifically for a Purple Heart space, but I think it would be appropriate to do veterans. I've reached out and talked to a number of other locations. I talked to Senator Matt Binky and asked for his support in this, and I would like to begin working on this and ask that certainly that our jurisdictions, Benton, Franklin County, Pasco, Kennewick, Richland, West Richland, Connell, ask the different jurisdictions if they would do this with us, and maybe sometime a little bit later on this fall, if we were to do it kind of in conjunction in a region and try to start something that businesses would be attracted to and do as well. I know if you go to Lowe's that they have a number of spaces designated for those that defend and serve our country. And so I think that would be really neat for us to do and begin working on. So if you would be willing to support that effort, I will put some work on it and bring you some information and ideas on what that would look like. Also went to a meeting last week that was hosted by the TRIDEC. It had to do with shrub steppe habitat, and the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife is not necessarily a not an enforcement organization in shrub steppe habitat, but similar to some of the frustrations that people have had with the Benton Franklin Health District and the Washington State Department of L&I, by default, other agencies become enforcement agents on behalf of the Department of Fish and Wildlife. And I'll give you an example. We all know over in Kennewick, if you go up Columbia Center Boulevard, you have the Red Lion. Immediately on the west side of Red Lion, there's an empty lot that has not been developed. On the one side, you have a 7-lane road that is bordered by the mall. You have 3 other hotels on the west side of the lot. You have Red Lion on the east side of this lot, and you have Shopco. Washington's Department of Fish and Wildlife has designated that as prime shrub steppe habitat. And so the owner of the lot was going to do some work on it, and they appealed that decision, and it was denied as far as the designation of it being prime shrub steppe habitat. This was a month and a half ago or so. So I immediately drove over to that lot to try to understand what it was that they were identifying. And aside from the shopping carts and some homeless encampments that were there, I didn't see any prime shrub steppe habitat. And so this is a real issue in our community. I've talked with our building, planning, and economic development director about it. He has been working on it, is very familiar and has a lot of understanding of it. And so just something for us to be very aware of, and wanted you commissioners to be very aware of that. That's a regulatory challenge that is coming closer to the forefront, as it is hindering a lot of development, and the Department of Fish and Wildlife has a predictive model that they use imaging and different technologies, and that technology is so good that there's some crop circles that have been in crop circles certainly since the 70s that is indicated as prime shrub steppe habitat. So there's some technology needs some tweaks there. HAPO meeting about HAPO with HWL, Larry Leisure. City of Pasco Council meeting last Monday night. I also met with the new Pasco City Manager, Harold Stewart, yesterday morning. Enjoyed that. Enjoyed getting to spend an hour with him and get to know him a little bit. And my thoughts would mirror our administrators in that he's a straight shooter. And one of the first things he said to me that I thought was pretty powerful, and I definitely appreciated, and I told him it was the first time that I had heard that from any official from the city of Pasco, and that was, he said, I think it's of utmost importance that the county and the city work well together. And so I really, really appreciated that sentiment. I told him so, and I look forward to a new and renewed relationship with the city of Pasco, where that, of course, everybody within Pasco is residents of Franklin County, and I think it's important that as the leaders of these two organizations that we work well together. Meeting yesterday with the PA's office, also with our administrator, and with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll leave that as my report.
Commissioner Mullen.
So I met with Administrator Danzel on the agenda. Also last week had the Health Department meeting, and again, going over some of the septic laws and whatnot. Also, I know we've had discussion on L&I, just from my own personal experience lately. I bought my permits and they never showed. I called, no answer. Went to the office in Kennewick, and they said that they would call. They couldn't get a hold of them either. Said that they would get somebody to hold me by the end of the day, which they did. And they were very nice to work with and very pleasant. But I was informed that there was no one working in that department any longer, and that's why I didn't receive my permits. So I thought it was kind of unproductive to take someone's money for a permit when nobody runs that department anymore. I mean, I find it kind of odd, but I guess just stay persistent. And again, on the food trailer issues, right now in Yakima, there is a food trailer there from Canada that was built at the same facility as the other trailers we had in question here recently in Walla Walla and Ben Franklin, but they were given a one-time exemption because they were out of the country. That is real.
Is California another country? Because I know there was one came from California.
Yeah. This one's out of Canada and was given an exemption because they only do one event in the States. Yet their trailer was built at the same manufacturing plant as the other two trailers in question. And I don't understand how you can have selective enforcement like that, where you're keeping American citizens from doing their job and employing people and paying taxes and fees. So anyways, and also I would just say that, working some of the fairs here recently, Benton Franklin Fair, the economy seems really good. But when you, some of the other outlying areas, I can tell that people are definitely struggling. The sales are way down. And I mean, a lot down. So anyways, everything's getting more expensive and salaries, have not met that pace. And I think we're finally starting to see the results in some of these outlying areas where people just simply don't have money to spend. That concludes my report.
Last week consisted of the health department meeting, which I attended virtually. Got a whole packet there on their justification for their septic tank rulings and being more stringent than the state in Benton and Franklin counties. Hanford community meeting, which was very alarming. They said that PN&L out there, I think, is going to lay off 500 more people and 300 more out in the area on top of what they've already laid off. So we're starting to see this, I guess, drawback on Hanford employment, which is going to affect our area. Columbia Basin Sustainable Water Coalition executive meeting, and then the Columbia Basin Sustainable Water stakeholder meeting, Ben Franklin Council of Governments meeting, the agenda meeting with Mr. Danzel. Got calls last week about the Pasco wastewater treatment facility out here on Foster Wells, where the land values, the homeowner values of the people living on Foster Wells has went down because of the smell that they're occurring. They're losing value in their property because of it, and it's showing up on their taxes now, their tax assessment. And then calls from citizens on the property tax situation, and when are we going to see some relief from that? Also got a call from Scott Smiley about the veterans. First and foremost, I know that all three of these commissioners wanted to make sure that and I'm all in agreement with the parking position out here wherever we would decide to put that, and I think it should be up close in front of the entrance of our courthouse. But our veterans, I know, and all three of these commissioners that are sitting in this board, we thank them for their service, and we want to make sure they're taken care of. As far as what we saw today, really enjoyed seeing these students come in here and talk to us. Again, we're going to make sure that they're taken care of in Franklin County. When we have Benton County putting down some demands on us that we're not in agreement with, we have to find a way to make sure that we stay solvent and that we don't just keep handing over money without being accountable for it. And indemnified. I mean, when we indemnify them, then we can't hold them responsible for what these are the issues that people don't realize that's going on, is why we're in this predicament where there's unjustly demands being thrown on Franklin County, and we're not going to put up with it anymore. So with that, we will move down to other business.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I am so sorry. I forgot a very important part of my thing that I had all printed out. Would you be willing to?
No, I'm not going to be willing to. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So I want to say thank you to our chief of the jail, Chief Harmon, and he's put a very rigorous training schedule in place. And so I received a copy from the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission about one of our corrections officers, and I'd like to just read just a brief piece of this. It's Renee Rafi. When Renee Rafi stood in her corrections officer equivalency training classroom, she carried with her the weight of a life shaped by resilience. Born in Tehran, Iran, and raised in the shadow of religious persecution, her family fled so she could have a future beyond the limitations of her faith. My role after high school was to get married or find a job working in a store without a real future, Rafi said. My parents decided to leave the country so they could create a future for me. Her path wound through Turkey, Detroit, and finally back to Washington, where she chose to serve her community inside the walls of the Franklin County Corrections Center. For Rafi, every day begins with purpose. What gets me out of bed every day is love for my job and the love for my coworkers, she said, and the love to serve my community with them. The story goes on. The story is available. I had the opportunity to go talk to Renee last night. She was on duty through the night. I went and shared a meal with them, brought them pizza, and she is really, really special. And she is an amazing lady that even though that she was persecuted where she came from, she came here and has chosen to serve our community that she now calls her own. And so thank you, Renee Rafi, and thank you, Chief Harmon, for your willingness to serve and love on your staff and get them trained. And thank you to all the people that serve Franklin County. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well done. So with that, we'll move down to correspondence. Mr. Danzel.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. We have a response letter on our behalf to Ranch River Resort LLC that has it made its way down. It's making its way down right now. There you are. And that's for signature to Mr. Beauchamp and, well, to Ranch River Resort LLC.
Yes, and I might add to that that there was some more misunderstanding about this, that we were denying them their ability to pursue, and we're not. All we were talking about was managing Levy Landing Park, which we don't really think that's part of the role of government. So no, we're not denying anybody their pursuit of what they want to do. So this letter specifically says that we're not park managers, but they can pursue managing it themselves. So I'm willing to sign it, and thank you, Mr. Danzel, for putting this together. And with that, that's the only thing on correspondence. We're down to public comment. Is there anybody for public comment? Anybody on the phone?
Thank you. I was pleased to hear that there are better relationships between Franklin County and the city of Pasco. I've heard a lot about costs, and I think that we are in a situation where minimum wage doubled down with increased sales tax rate in Pasco of 0.089 is preventing growth, is preventing people from buying stuff here. I had an attorney who moved from Yakima, ordered his lumber where it's 0.080 and delivered here to add on to his house, and he's got a nice home and everything, cheaper than he can get it here. I think that would be something to be important to revisit, and I spoke last week as we went out the door with Mr. Danzel again on this transit. It's in both counties, and Mr. McCart got these figures together for me, so I thank him for that. That the 0.6% is outrageous for empty buses. You've been saying it for a long time. It's time to do a referendum, because Benton wants us to pay more for certain things, and we're now increasing our alienation with our sister county. And I would like to see that healed back, but this is one of the issues that we can agree on. And as a taxpayer, I want to do a referendum. We have less votes to counter with the number of signatures after the last election. I think now is the time, and I'd like to urge that. Finally, there is in Lotus tonight at 5:30 a public hearing on their water issues at 130 Weston Street in Lotus, and I am going to attend. I hope one of you does. This is a critical issue out there for them, and it's a burden, and it needs to be known. Finally, we were scheduled to do a presentation to you, and when you talk about some of the issues you're facing, especially with the breach of the separation of powers from the Supreme Court, telling us we have to hire more public defense at our expense. We want to have adequate court coverage. I'm just listening to our district court judge and how hard she works, and she's here late. She works through her lunch. I did all that in my career, and it hurt my body, and I don't want to see that happen to her. It's not worth it. But when we have unfunded mandates that are unconstitutional, you must fight on a constitutional basis. That right there is a grievance that you could go right through to your legislators and call for a constitutional compliance with the right petition and a few signatures. And I urge you to do this. I've been talking with high-level officials. You might recognize the name Richard Mack, because on the county level, if somebody's doing these kind of things, it's the sheriff that enforces it. Prosecuting attorney runs what's called a grand jury. They're not difficult, but they do need to have some technical oversight. These are our rights under the Constitution. Please reschedule. Thank you.
Anybody else for public comment? Anybody on the phones? Okay, seeing nobody coming forward, nobody on the phones. Executive session? Any need for an executive session?
No.
Okay, and other business? Any other business for the good of the county? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned, and we're going to roll right into the workshop. So I'd like to call the workshop to order and ask for a motion to approve the workshop agenda, the 2 items on there.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of the workshop agenda of 2 items.
Second.
Been a motion and a second to approve the workshop agenda. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Public comment, is there anybody that would like to come forward and talk on these 2 specific items? Seeing nobody come forward, nobody's on the phone. We will move into item 1, District Court Project, presented by Franklin County District Court Judge Orozco.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I just want to remind you, you said you don't want to deny anyone the pursuit of what they want to do, and this is what I want to do, so let's get this done. Also, it was kind of a bleak morning, so hopefully we can have some positive things go this morning. I dropped off a packet. I don't know if y'all have it.
Yep.
I also have a notebook full of information if you want to see it, and we can go over that, but most of the information is included in this report. So what I have here first is the PowerPoint presentation, which I wasn't going to put on. I can. But just so that we can go through it together with attachments and then also with the resolutions. I know we can't sign those today if agreed, but I just want you to see what information I have because I did add information to those resolutions as you would any normal packet, RCWs, job descriptions, and so forth. So I'm coming to you today with 3 problems and a solution that will answer everything. So I know people often come in with a lot of problems and they want you to solve their problems, but I've solved it as long as we can see what I'm requesting. I'm going to start with a request to allocate a portion of my salary and my court commissioner / probation officer, administrator and probation officer salary from the mental health sales tax. I know that we're going to have kind of a knee-jerk reaction to saying no to this, so I do want to point out that the sales tax was created for this purpose, and if we look at after the heading page of allowable use of funding, it specifically states that it is available to support the cost of the judicial officer and a support staff of the therapeutic court. Because we are fully grant funded as far as our employees are currently concerned and other funding opportunities as far as equipment and so forth, we haven't used this funding, the grant, to support my position, and we haven't used it to support the administrator position who does a lot of the work on the grant funding side as far as developing or creating the invoices, providing me the invoices, reviewing A19s, going through A19s. It ends up being about 20% of our time weekly, which for me, I'm estimating for myself a little bit low because I do spend pretty much all day Monday working on therapeutic court, and then also throughout the week, I do stay late and kind of go through information that we have, and we work on weekends and so forth. But I think 20% is a fair estimate. I'm not looking for additional. I'm just looking for what I currently serve. Right now, the grant does support our full-time coordinator, case manager, and our case manager position. We also pay out 20% to our clerk, who is providing those clerk services and who processes documents, files documents, and so on. So we are bringing a little bit back in. I also was able to secure this year additional funding for law enforcement liaison, which we have somebody from the sheriff's office and also from the jail, because we had previously had before the split Mark Tenacor in, and he was serving as our liaison. When the split occurred, we ended up getting a second. So it's only been helpful for us. Just on a side note, 88% of success rates come from having a good law enforcement liaison. It's that connection and relationship. I do want to note that we are currently hearing felony cases. I think all of our cases in therapeutic court are actually felony cases. That came from the termination of the agreement in Benton County as far as having our therapeutic court, drug court contract. So the majority of our cases, if not all, are felonies. We are saving money, direct savings, reduced or no trial costs. Once somebody enters our program and is accepted, they sign an agreement that indicates they will not be going to trial. So the reduced trial costs or lack of, reduced incarceration fees, reduced prosecution fees, reduced time. There's indirect savings, obviously, and the most impactful, housing, employment, individuals who are now paying their taxes, paying their own apartment fees, costs, all of those. The benefit for us currently is that since our inception, we've been grant funded. We've been told that statewide, the state is trying to go to a therapeutic court system throughout the state, so the funding should remain. That's money that our current taxpayers are paying out towards to the state and that we're bringing back in. So I don't want people to look at it like, here we are taking money from our taxpayers. That money's already been taken. It's us bringing it back. Right now, we've secured $881,000 just for therapeutic court. That doesn't include the other grants that we've received. I'm aware that there's always a concern about loss of the grant funding. I've been assured, and obviously we can't guarantee it, but that the funding will remain. But if it doesn't, we can use, and the purpose of the mental health and substance use sales tax is for this purpose. The savings and benefits to the county currently, I think it was around 100,000, 120. I'm just saying 100 to be safe, that when we terminated the contract with Benton County for adult drug court, that money stopped going out. So we instantly saved $100,000 by taking the felony cases into district court. We've applied for and received grants exceeding $998,000. The amount is higher because when we applied for a security grant, we actually received more money when they saw that we spent more. They were like, we have a little extra, here you go. With the $100,000 and then $998,000, we're at over $1 million that we've brought into the county or brought back to the county, which I think is indicative of what we're doing. The allocation of this funding is allowable and only allowable because we have an active program. That's it. The allocation is appropriate because 20% of our time is spent working on therapeutic court, whether it be the financials, the court time, case management. Allocation without my additional requests would result in about $86,500 available, which doesn't sound like a lot in the grand scheme of things, but it's going to do a lot of good, which I think is what our goals are here. This will increase with the increase of COLAs, reclassifications, and so forth. The amount would greatly benefit the county and would allow us to meet our legal requirements regarding an interpreter situation, which I'll talk about further. As far as the district court administrator probation officer position, I was just kind of looking around. I saw actually, a job offer come through, and I saw the amounts, and I said, oh, we're not there. And so I kind of started looking into what other counties were paying, what the job duties entailed, what was required. Historically, district court and our court has been wearing two hats, the court administrator and probation director, which is not typical. But we're not typical because we have active probation, where most jurisdictions do not have an active probation department. One of the biggest issues here is that there was an education push and a change in that if you are probation, you must have a degree. So we need to change our job description to include that degree. It also does allow you to be grandfathered in if you have so much experience, which fortunately our current administrator does have the experience and has worked as a probation officer and sometimes fills in when necessary, when somebody's sick or when there's additional people. We have a long docket. She'll go in and just pull up her sleeves and help out. Statewide, the position has changed, but also here the position has changed because she's now overseeing more budgets. She's supporting therapeutic court. She's applying for, finding, implementing the grants that we incur. And I do believe that a step increase is appropriate given what she's currently doing. I have attached on, I believe, the orange tab, the change in the job description, and it's hard to tell because obviously they're 3 pages long. You probably haven't seen the other one, so to compare them is different. But we do have an education requirement, additional budget requirements, and funding requirements. Reclassification, we are requesting, she's currently a grade 19, step 7, hasn't obviously moved in a number of years because she's been there a long time. The review and duties, county population, office size, case types, caseload, case duties, or job duties, has changed. Even if we were not to consider grant management and therapeutic court support, her position has changed sufficiently to support and reclassification. We're requesting that the position be moved to a grade 20, which would result in currently a grade 20, step 6. I've included some financials as far as the amounts that it would impact on the first year, second year, which did not include COLAs. I did do a 3%. I've recently heard that there's potentially a 3.5. The numbers aren't there. But it does show that a 20% allocation would also increase. I went through a relevant market evaluation, went through population size, the number of judges in different jurisdictions, what the job entitled or requires, whether they're civil, criminal, so forth, if they have active therapeutic courts. And I found throughout the state, including, I think, counties that would be comparable, that we are not within the correct salary for the position, not even including the fact that we also have a probation director requirement. And just for fun, I know it doesn't really matter to the board, but Benton County's pay is substantially higher than ours. And I also know that we don't typically, as according to Ms. Welder, compare to cities, but the city of Pasco, which is, a few steps over there, their max salary is $145 for this position, which would take us higher than we're at right now, even at a 20 if that request was approved. I did a cute little check sheet here so you can just see what we do versus what other people do and why it's appropriate. We also have a therapeutic court coordinator, and on my third request, the position originally started as a coordinator and case manager. We put everything on her shoulders. We were new. We didn't have the need for additional case management, but we did have the need for somebody to go out there and do the coordinator position. She has exceeded all of our expectations. Most of her job has now been focused on the coordination portion, and we have a dedicated case manager. That case manager is managing most of our participants. However, our coordinator does jump in because she does have her doctorate. She's a licensed counselor. She has a lot of mental health experience. So when the need arises with somebody who maybe has some additional needs in our program, she will step in and oversee the case management to ensure the individual is receiving quality care. She is currently representing Franklin County at community events. She was recently added as a non-voting member to the Behavioral Health Advisory Board, jumped in and had herself added to a subcommittee. She is coordinating treatment, housing, and resource services. She's monitoring all UAs and treatment reports that come through. She's coordinating with local community partners. She's attending and coordinating development of training. She actually recently obtained, or earned, I should say, her ability to train in ORAS, which was very, very hard for her. She said it was probably the hardest class that she's ever taken, and it now can provide those services throughout the state, which could ultimately bring some sort of funding into Franklin County for her services. We do have a change of duties, and as I don't believe that this is really a reclassification other than just stating that she's no longer case management. She's the coordinator, and we need to identify her as such. Benton County Drug Court has, I believe, less participants than us currently, has a coordinator and 2 case manager positions. So requesting that we have a dedicated coordinator is not out of the realm of possibility. I think that it's actually appropriate here. And I want to remind the commission that it's fully grant funded. So us giving her a step increase isn't going to impact the budget at all. As far as the county's budget, it will impact the grant budget, but we do have the funds available in our grant to support that position. Finally, we have an interpreter contract situation. our interpreter of many years, put in her notice. She was told she worked at the school district part-time, and she was told to choose. Are you going to be an interpreter, or are you going to be a teacher? Obviously, they have breaks and more money and better benefits, so she selected the school district. That puts us in a real tough spot because we are required to provide interpreter services to anybody who needs them. We sent out an email, and I attached a stack of those emails. I believe it's tab 11, requesting individuals.
Which
Yes.
color tab?
Yellow.
Like this yellow?
Yeah. So we sent out, and we just posted the RFQ as we would normally do, and nobody was responding, so she individually emailed each certified interpreter on the list through AOC, and these are a number of the responses received. The requests were 2, 4, 8-hour minimums, $100 an hour, travel costs, to appear via Zoom. We had only one person in Washington State say that they would be willing to come to Franklin County, but only if it was a full-time position. That individual was willing to reduce their hourly fee from $75 to $65 an hour. At this point, it's the best option we have. We can support other departments with the interpreter. I've also reached out to Superior Court, inquiring if they had any need for an interpreter. They did indicate they do have a need and may be able to be willing to contract with Franklin County to help kind of offset some of the costs that we're currently going to see if we increase. The real problem is that we don't have a choice. We're going to have an interpreter present whether or not the budget is approved, whether or not our request is approved. We are required statutorily to provide interpreter services. And that's not just Spanish speaking, although that's primarily what we have. It's also sign language, Russian, Ukrainian, anything that you could think of. We call language line. We have people here very frequently. This allowing us to offer this position at the $65 an hour full-time is going to allow us to stay in compliance with the state, provide those services, and also potentially bring in some funding from Superior Court, which we can work together with. They can assist OPD, which would be very helpful. If we were to piecemeal this together right now, we would be at the highest paid person, $208,000, I believe, just for a Spanish-speaking interpreter, which was the second option that we had. They stated they'd be willing to come in and be here with us. But realistically, we can't afford $208,000 for simply a Spanish-speaking interpreter when we also are going to have the need for other interpreter services. We also need to look at the fact that we're going to be paying the language line and other individuals who are here. This last week, we had limited the need for Spanish interpreters, and we still paid $1,200. And that was just because their costs are so high. We're having an issue with interpreters just like the state's having an interpreter with defense attorneys. And if we can solve this problem by having somebody here and let everyone else worry about their own problems, that's great. So overall, I'm asking for 20% of mine and the administrator's salary, which is approximately $86,500, to reclassify the administrator probation director, which would be a negative of $5,283. The financial impact of reclassification of the coordinator is $0. The additional interpreting contract would be about $57,200, a total of positive $24,000 that would remain for general budget in the general fund. Just remind you, we did bring in almost $1.1 million. We are working hard to find the grants and to apply for those grants, to administer our own grants, and we are simply asking for some help here.
Commissioners, questions?
Thank you, Judge, for the presentation today. I'm just reading through some of these responses. Is in-person required, or is remote an option?
If you look back, and I need to find the statute, it essentially says that we are required to provide the interpreter and the defense attorney the ability in a private area to review forms and documentation. Doing that, if we were to attempt to set up a Zoom in a private meeting and then transfer it back over, has proven problematic. Our dockets have gone to 5, and Benton County knows going 536 because of those issues. So
I'm not sure what that means, going 536.
that late. So we're paying overtime for people to stay here while they're having their private conversations outside of the courtroom. We don't have the system currently set up. I was told for our courtroom alone, it would probably be $15,000 to $20,000 to get the electrical and all of the technology updated so that we could potentially provide something like that. But that's only for the courtroom, not for the meeting rooms, which they would have to have separately in order to review the forms as required by the statute.
And so we have to provide interpreting services irregardless of the language and at their request. So somebody could be fluent in English and say they need an interpreter, and we have to provide an interpreter in Urdu or whatever the case might be.
If they were fluent and indicated they were comfortable proceeding in English, then no, we do not. If they say that they would prefer to hear it in their native language for understanding purposes, yes, we do have to provide the interpreter.
Not a relevant question to this. Thank you for the presentation. As you know, I've come and asked lots of questions about your therapeutic court program and have attended a number of your graduations, have appreciated how those have gone. And I do want to finish reading through this, but I would be in favor of this. And the one caveat that I would have to that, knowing that our budget is what it is, in the event that we were to lose this grant funding that is pays for a lot of the parts of the therapeutic courts. If we were to lose that funding, I wanted to be clear that we may not be able to continue the services if the grant funding were to lapse. And so I just want to be careful to say that, but I would be in favor of this request that you've made here. Thank you.
With the interpretation, there's no computerized translator system that can be used?
A little bit. They just recently sent, we applied for another grant and we received this handheld device, but the caveat is you can't use it in court. So when people come to the window and say we have Jason who doesn't really speak Spanish and he has questions, they can use this device to translate, court dates, applications, how to make payments and so forth, but it cannot be used in court.
All right, thank you.
With his question, that's something that watching technology and the rate of adoption that we're having in technology, I would be interested in exploring, whether or not there is a cost-effective way to bring the courtroom up to the standards where we could have remote, and as well as that private area, because remote gives us access to the world versus in person. It's in person. And so I'd be interested in seeing if there is, I don't know, that's completely outside of the area that I've looked for grants, but I'm assuming with all the different grants, for RIS is always looking out for grants, and there may be opportunity for grant funding for bringing a courtroom up to, technology standards to allow for some of that.
And I've been looking through the ones that I can find as far as courtroom updating and so forth, and I haven't seen anything at this point. I did attend a training recently, grant-funded training, and there was some interesting advancements made where it would write out, but then you have to presume that somebody can read in their native language, which is, again, a problem. But it was interesting. I think they're working on it, but we're just not there yet.
Well, I too am concerned about grant funding, especially since this last legislature and this newly elected governor has increased the taxes on the citizens of Washington $40.2 billion in 1 year. it's unsustainable. The environment we're in right now, there's just no way that people can keep taking on more tax costs. So I would strongly urge you to don't rely on these grant fundings. I know you're applying for them, and I think you should, but I don't think they're going to be there. The other thing is on the mental health. We have got a situation here right now with Benton County. If they hire those 100 employees, we can't even fulfill our obligation with the money we have in the bank right now on that mental health to pay that.
And fortunately, I think we haven't entered into a contract would require us to make those payments, but we still have the ability to use those services. And I am for the idea of a recovery center, but I do believe that additional information needs to be obtained, and that's why we have Dr. Pierce out there attending the meetings and going through the documents and figuring out what she can do to help or be of assistance.
Well, this is our whole concern. There's so many uncertainties here that are going on. We have not signed an agreement. You're exactly right, but we have vowed to be part of this, so we don't know where we stand there. I can't really foresee us using any of those funds right now until we have clarity of our position with Benton County on this mental health facility. So I'm a little bit in the odds of using any of that mental health money at this time until we know the clarity of that situation. And the grant funding, I applaud you for going out and getting that and using it until it dries up, which I think it's going to be drying up with the situation of the country right now in our state. I encourage you to go after it, but I don't think it's going to be readily available like it has been.
And I appreciate that. I guess what I'm looking at is we're not using the funding. I understand we're sitting on it and it's building interest, whatever we're doing. We're negotiating with Benton County and the Recovery Center, but really what we're also looking at is 86,000, even 100,000. Is that going to be such a huge impact to the Recovery Center versus what we can do here with it? I'm not saying to take money from the Recovery Center, but I'm saying that this statute was made to work together, not to work for just one location. And so if we can take a very small portion of the money and we can do good here in Franklin County, and then we can also support the Recovery Center and work with them, I don't know why we would get in the way of that. I understand there's issues as finances are concerned, and I know it's going to be hard to try to fully support the program over there, but that doesn't mean it should hamper us from doing what's best here.
And that 100,000 is not a one-time, that's year after year after year.
Yearly,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
So yes, in 10 years, it would be $1 million. I get
yeah.
that.
Okay, just our concerns, well, my concerns, I should say. So I thank you for the presentation, and this is a workshop, so all we are is taking information.
I think the easiest solution would be to take 1/10 of 1% away from the transit and put it to better use. I don't think people realize how much money they're spending on the transit, and we have other issues that need to be addressed and funded, and here they sit with millions and millions in reserves, and everybody else is struggling. I think the taxpayers need to know where their money's going, and I think that it should be a better use of it.
And I agree, but there's only two ways that we can get the taxpayers to make a decision on whether they want to keep paying 0.6 of 1%. The one is the board of directors that are on the transit would take it and say, yes, we want the taxpayers, but we have had a no vote on that every time it's been brought up. And the other would be a petition by the people to put it on the ballot. And that's the only route I can see right now that we could do, is the people would have to say, we want to vote on this again.
It should be the people's choice. It's their money.
Exactly.
Well, and I appreciate, I guess I just want to let the board know that we wouldn't be as successful as we are without Dr. Pierce here. And I often tell her that she's my program mama, because I developed a lot, but she's made it happen. And because she is the mama, she's taking control of it. And if we lose her, our program isn't gonna do as well as it's doing. She knows what it is from the bottom up, you know. She started, she's made all the connections. She's brand new to the area. She's been here for as long as she just moved here. She started the job and she's already made friends and connections in every area that we would it's surprising to expect. She's made connections with people I've never even heard of before in agencies that I haven't even knew existed. So to lose her because we can't change her position to reclassify it as what she's really doing seems like a waste. I know that she's already had job offers, and we really can't lose her. So I hope that the commission will take that into consideration as well, knowing that she's had a number of job offers because she's just that good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Takes us down to Strategic Plan Phase 3, presented by Mr. Danzel.
Bear with me, Mr. Chairman. Okay, here we go. Strategic Plan Phase 3. We've got a short one today for you. It's 15 slides. Imperatives and foundational principles. Strategic plan is a direct response to Franklin County's mission to support community development, promote economic opportunity, and create infrastructure and jobs. It serves to bridge the gap between high-level aspirational statements and tangible, measurable policy and project execution. Initiatives like creating a public infrastructure fund and updating the comp plan are tactical steps to provide a concrete, unified roadmap for progress. Protecting the road fund. If there's one thing that I've heard time in and time out, it's that we're going to try to protect the road fund to the best of our ability. Locally sourced road fund is under constant pressure from competing demands and a lack of grant funding for road paving projects. So this is how you would break it down: initiative, performance, and mitigation. The initiative is to define and prohibit diversion of these funds, ensuring all expenditures are restricted to maintenance and capital improvements as designated in the annual TIP. Performance: track the percentage of road fund expenditures that align with the annual TIP, targeting 100% alignment annually. And then mitigation: explore and promote alternative funding models such as the County Road Improvement District to alleviate pressure on the general road fund. These are all just ideas. It's not in concrete, but these are things that you could do that are kind of outside the box, the mitigation anyway, to be able to alleviate the pressure on the general road fund. One of the things that I've heard from all three commissioners is to try to get our infrastructure in the North County up to snuff. Franklin County has a priority program that evaluates gravel roads based on criteria like average daily traffic and commercial use. The initiative here would be to secure additional non-grant funding, potentially by directing revenue from the sale of surplus county land. We've talked about that in some of our meetings before. Performance: measure the number of miles of gravel road paved and chip sealed in North Franklin County per year. Now, Craig Erdman's not in the room right now, but I can tell you this much, that because we left the road fund alone this last year into this year, they've been able to chip seal more miles than they have in the previous, half dozen years. And at one time, I know that we used to talk about this. Commissioner Baumann, you talked about the fact that we used to chip seal 100 miles a year. I think that this is a way to get back to doing that. Mitigation: address potential public opposition to new funding mechanisms by implementing a robust outreach and education campaign. Updating the building code. Updating the building code to recognize the will of the board. This has been something that I know has been important for you all and for Mr. McCart, who, by the way, I would be remiss if I didn't mention is his birthday yesterday. So a late happy birthday, Wes.
27?
He's 27 years old. That's right. The initiative here is to enhance the digital modernization of the permitting process to make it more user-friendly and effective. To action, launch a continuous public information campaign to ensure contractors, developers, and residents understand key changes such as new requirements for electric vehicle charging and smoke alarms. Performance: measure the reduction in average permit review time once a baseline is established. The risk here is confusion and noncompliance can lead to increased permitting delays, and then mitigation would be to provide transparent and easily accessible information and communication outreach. Wes has talked about this quite a bit actually already with you gentlemen as you went through and we talked about updating the code, and even here in these meetings you've given names of builders and developers that he could reach out to, and so Wes is already doing a good job of this. He's already taken on the first few steps in this action item. as well as this here. This is a legally mandated long-term project under the State's Growth Management Act. Ours is a 20-year, horizon, so basically, that we're planning for from 2026 to 2046. We already have our PPP in place. That's our public participation plan. And we want to follow that. Obviously, we have to follow it, but we want to follow it because we want broad stakeholder involvement. So the initiative here is meticulously execute the PPP timeline and public outreach schedule, including workshops and events with an explicit focus on early and continuous engagement with tribal nations, builders, entrepreneurs, folks that are kind of the movers and shakers here. Performance, the success of the update will be measured by the completion of the PPP milestones or on or ahead of schedule. And we've talked about that too. Wes has got a very, I think he's got a good idea of when he's going to be able to get this done. I think it's realistic. I don't think it's too conservative or too, pie in the sky. So I appreciate that, Wes. Mitigation, proactively promote meetings and surveys through multiple channels, including bilingual notices and virtual participation options. Selling surplus land. Franklin County owns land that may no longer serve a public purpose, and its divestment could generate significant capital for strategic investments. The initiative here is to formalize a process for selling surplus land by conducting a comprehensive inventory and assessment to identify parcels that lack a clear current or future public use. Mr. Chairman, you had talked to me about trying to get the treasurer on the agenda to talk about some of these tax title parcels or other properties. I think that we need to do that. I think it's time that we probably take a look at that. Action, did you have a comment, sir?
Just on that, your comment there with the chairman, on tax title property, do you know, do we have an inventory already established for tax title properties and the surplus lands? Do you know if that even exists yet?
Let me get back to you on. I think partially. I don't know that it's everything that you entailed there, but yes, I know that there's a full understanding of the tax title properties.
I know that a number of years ago that there was a sale of some of that, and I didn't realize that. I think I know about one piece, but I didn't know about more than that. I would certainly be in favor of a workshop type setting and ask the treasurer to come and share with us so that we have a understanding of the inventory. I'd definitely be in favor of that.
Thank you. That's great. I'll work to that end. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. So we've talked about formalizing a process action. Utilize an electronic auction service mirroring existing practices for tax foreclosed properties to ensure transparency or broad market reach. We also have some excellent auctioneers here locally, so I think that this could be done through them using an electronic. They usually utilize some of that on their own end anyway. But that's we've seen that's been a kind of a this is even pre-COVID, by the way, where there was more of a move to off-site auctions, online auctions, over even being there in person, which I know seems crazy, I know, but that's just kind of the way the world's moving. I don't think I could, for me it would work. I'd want to see it and feel it and touch it first, but that's just the way it is. Strategic value. The revenue generated from these sales can be used to capitalize a new public infrastructure fund or supplement the road fund, which faces local funding shortfalls for paving projects year in and year out. And the way that we would do the performance on this, we'd measure the revenue generated from the land sales with a target defined based on the initial inventory and market analysis. And so I think there's opportunity here. I think that by statute, we have to actually dispense with some of the properties by a certain amount of time. So it's time that we have that workshop, I believe. And that'll be the action item that we take there. Creating a public infrastructure fund. Now, this has been in front of you a couple of times before. The initiative, Franklin County is experiencing a significant economic growth, but much of it is within tax increment financing areas, which means the county will not immediately benefit from the new revenue. So a public infrastructure fund could build on the existing economic development dollars that we have here. And I've included in the public infrastructure fund a $350,000 revenue safeguard reserve and $1 million opportunity reserve. That's just all ideas at this point. As you gentlemen know, I've gotten that to you, the idea of a public infrastructure fund and what it would take and what it would do. It would call for really a better representation of the entire county. We had comments today about Colotus. They would have a seat at the table, Basin City, Mesa, or pardon me, not Basin City, Mesa, Connell, Pasco, obviously. Anyway, it would be a more diverse table, and it would be specific to Franklin County, which is different than some of where we send some of our economic development dollars. Not that that's bad necessarily, but it's usually in a regional aspect where it's regionally, like the Ben Franklin COG, for example, or the port of Pasco. And again, those are not necessarily bad uses of the dollars that we're trying to utilize here and get into the right spot. But there's other options out there. The Public Infrastructure Fund is one of them. The new fund would invest in public infrastructure projects that proactively stimulate private investment and expand the tax base. I've had a conversation with Commissioner Bauman about CPACE financing that I think that we should probably hold in a workshop as well at some point. That would be another way and another kind of idea or avenue for how to create commerce and economic development, which in turn will create tax revenue for the county. Performance, we measure the value of new private investment affected per dollar of public funds invested. This might be one of the more easily and more readily available performance standards that we could measure. And then the mitigation, the fund would be chartered with clear, transparent rules, and all decisions would be made in public meetings. We're required by law to do this, obviously, but this is for the benefit of not just the commissioners to see, but also the public that might be viewing this. Reinforcing fiscal integrity, updating county policies. I think you've seen we've done a pretty fair job of that lately, formalizing the ongoing effort to update county policies by establishing a centralized public-facing policy hub and recurring review cycle. This kind of ties into something that really the prosecuting attorney's office has been asking for a while too. It's a combination. I see it as loading things onto the P drive and then also utilizing your form that you're wanting. I think it would be a good way to move forward as well. Fully implementing the ER&R fund, Mr. Erdman, myself, Tim Anderson, Jeff Burkhart, and Ryan Brimacom met with Enterprise to discuss potentially motor pool service for the rest of the county while leaving Public Works in their ER&R fund alone. Either way, we have to make the financial investment for our ER&R fund to work. What's exciting about some of what like Enterprise and some of these other outfits offer is that you can develop equity in a vehicle within the second year of ownership, because they have such a volume discount that they go to, like, say, Dodge, Chevy, Ford, whoever is providing the biggest discount or rebate at the time. Right now, Dodge, for example, is offering a $7,500 rebate. So that by the time that you get to the second year, instead of being upside down and not knowing what to do with the vehicle, you actually have equity in it. So it's higher turnover, but you always get newer rigs and you take advantage of their buying power. It's something to think about. It's also called Rapid Ride in certain areas. It's similar in a way to how the General Services Administration works at the federal government. I will be discussing this more with you gentlemen in our one-on-one session so you can better understand it. Plus, it's more palatable in a session like that because it's a lot of documentation that would put people to sleep, and I don't really want to do that. Reaching reserve milestones, develop a unified financial reserve policy that defines minimum levels and explicitly links the accumulation of cash reserves to the county's stated budgeted priorities. We've got that done, and as in my update, you know that we're nearing the finish line on the financial policies in general. I don't have to continue to talk about this, but we've been reviewing ILAs and contracts. We've addressed the findings of the 2023 Washington State Auditor's Report. How cool was it the other day to get a perfectly clean audit report with no findings and no shortcomings? I think that kind of plays into that, obviously, that you've been working in the right direction before me even. frankly. So, I mean, honestly, a lot of this predates my getting here too. This was back when Eric Johnson come on board, and he started to get things straightened out. And I think we've done a good job of continuing with that, and I think that all adds up with a clean audit. So, I appreciate you gentlemen empowering us to be able to do that. Risk management, risk assessment and mitigation, legislative and political hurdles. We've talked about this before. Initiatives like creating new funds or divesting assets require formal approval and may face public opposition. I think that we've got experience in facing public opposition in a lot of different ways. And I think that once you've had that experience and being able to overcome whatever that opposition might be, that becomes the bigger problem. And so here's the mitigation point: present a strong data-backed business case and leverage a robust public communication strategy. I think just from here on out, I think just in general, that communication and the communication strategy is going to be something that we have to prioritize. Financial constraints. The county faces a cash flow risk because new economic growth and the TIF areas does not immediately translate into new revenue. Again, mitigation would be a public infrastructure fund capitalized by the sale of surplus land. Everything that takes place over in Olympia, it really it kind of forces the counties into always trying to rely on the automatic 1% lid lift that you can do every year. That's what they're trying to get people conditioned to, in my opinion, because for years and years, and by the way, I think Derek Young, our executive director of WASAC, will be here next week to tour our county courthouse, and President Rob Kaufman will be here too. But at the beginnings of WASAC, the whole entire reason for its purpose was to fight for shared revenues. So like when we carry out the functions of the court or on behalf of the state, it's also kind of a hangover of how their salaries are arrived at, and why a lot of people like to tie that to the, because they know they have a better shot of actually something being done in that regard, rather than the legislature actually doing what it needs to on shared revenues. They're good at taking our revenues, and then there's a middleman problem, where the middleman jumps up in the way and they don't send back as much as they took. Administrative and procedural obstacles. Again, this is looking back, but we found a lack of internal controls over contract monitoring, leading to significant potential losses. We've fixed that. The mitigation is that we've implemented formal, transparent, and centralized processes for contract review, policy updates, and fund management. And it was a gauntlet. And I got to tell you, I think Chief Counsel Briggs, you've taken on a lot. The whole prosecutor's office has in getting those policies across the finish line. I want to thank Mr. McCart and the auditor's office and treasurer's office and everybody that's been available to do this. This has been a really heavy lift, frankly, and we're not there yet, but we're closing in on it because we've got the state and federal procurement policy done. We've got a litany of financial policies in place, reserve policy. And when we get the actual financial policies done and across the finish line, it'll be a great day for Franklin County. Strategic goals and key initiatives: protect the road fund from diversion. So the objective is enforce fiscal policies to safeguard the road fund, explore and promote county road improvement district. Timeline, we're looking at between now and 6 months. And this is obviously a collaboration of Public Works, the Board of Commissioners, the county auditor, but really everybody, because the road fund is utilized usually when we run out of every other funding source, right? So everybody kind of contributes to that. Utilize the road funds for substantial progress, and they've done this. They've done a great job of this, but this is more of a continuation of the good work that's been done. Address the backlog of unpaved roads. I know that there's an emphasis on North Franklin County. Formally adopt the Public Works Priority Paving Program and integrate a multi-year paving schedule. It's possible to do this if we leave the money alone. You know, if we can't expect Public Works to go in and deliver on this and have any kind of a plan that they'll stick to if every other year or every fourth year or whatever, we don't leave that funding alone. And that's a challenge because there's going to be a lot of people. Everybody that presents, I think, makes a good case. Yeah, when they're asking to take care of their department or their people, I think they're making a good case. They're trying to take care of what goes on in their domain. Your job is just so much more difficult because you're seeing the overall bottom line for the entire county with all the departments. And so it's a much more difficult thing to look at because you have to look at the great big picture and not just for right now, but what is it going to look like 3, 4, and 5 years down the road? Initiatives formally adopt the public, we already went through that. Phase 2 would be 7 to 18 months. This is after we've been able to, if we implement, road fund and protect the road fund, then what do we do with the funds from the what we've saved? And again, these are just ideas. These are what I hear you guys say. So if there's anything that you want me to change, you let me know. Update the building code. So we got to adopt and clearly communicate, that's the wrong year, building codes. Enhance online permitting system and launch a public industry outreach campaign. Timeline, again, this is something that I've signed Wes up for that he doesn't know, but 0 to 6 months. Really, Wes has already been doing this, and he's working towards a solution that'll put us in the best possible position to not have to go through as many of the challenges that you see. Update the comprehensive plan. We've already talked about this. I don't want to beat a dead horse. He's looking to have this done in short order rather than a long term. And we've talked about selling the land holdings. Treasurer, Board of Commissioners need to get together and meet on that as we've discussed. Try to speed this up here for us. Reach reserve milestones. Achieve specific reserve targets that align with budget priorities. We went over that. Develop a unified reserve policy across all funds and tie reserve targets to strategic goals. We have to do this if we're going to be able to pay for any of it. Otherwise, we'll go upside down. Again, we've already talked about the ILAs and contracts, but it's worth noting that that's usually where the biggest amount of savings can be found. And I'm not just saying with, I want to be very careful about something. There's been a lot discussed recently about Benton County and Franklin County and being good partners. And I think we all want that. I want that too. And kind of one of the things that I told the folks over across the river was that I'm not going to be the person that speaks up in newspaper articles or interviews or anything that's trying to throw anybody under the bus. What we're trying to do is we're trying to financially manage this county in a fiscally prudent way while delivering the services to so many of the fine people that were here today. And it's unfortunate sometimes when things happen like they did, but also I look at it as an opportunity. I guess I've always been an optimist that way, that I think that there are opportunities here. And we're not always going to agree on everything. I think that's the other thing that we've got to come to the conclusion of is that even if we don't agree, we can disagree in an agreeable fashion. It doesn't have to be a knockdown, drag-out fight, and I don't think that any kind of media has to be involved. We could just have a gentleman agreement or disagreement, and I think that that's a very possible and doable thing in the year 2025 even. Road funds for progress, update the building code. We've talked about the comprehensive plan. We've talked about the selling the land holdings. I think we've gone over all this too, and the target, part of it is, there's so much left to be defined. So when we were talking about our reserve milestones, we know what we want to reach in our actual full budget reserve, but another reserve that we're going to have to reach and think of this in a 3-year time frame will be if we were going to go to self-insurance. And I think the whole world is going to self-insurance. So I think it's going to, and we will save money that way. If the first year and second year especially, there aren't an exorbitant amount of claims. You can, if you have a proper reserve built, you can continue to add to it and continue to actually fix some of the benefit woes that we've had in Franklin County. That's doable if we're able to get there. But we got to reach our reserve milestones in the overall budget first before we can, put money aside for being able to go fully self-insured. And that's the end of it today. That's the last update, as I promised you, until we get all the information in from the surveys. That's due at the end of this month. what I'll do from there on out is we'll actually start putting these plans into action. So when you're looking at all this stuff that's on the board, and we've got targets and we've got the specific deadlines that we want to reach and milestones that we want to reach and by when, and you're wondering, well, how is this all going to come to be? My expectation is that we have the Budget Shortfalls Committee work primarily pretty much done by the time the budget hits. And then by the time we're going to have budgeting this year, and then we're going to try to take what our 5 or 8 overarching goals are from the strategic plan with the reserve policy, with the financial policies, with all those policies we put into place. And that's going to overlay and inform the Board of Commissioners on how to get there. So you know that you want to do this, you know that you want to make permitting processes more streamlined, you know that we need the construction, new construction and development is one way that you can help offset the kind of the gap and structural gap in the tax structure that we have here in the state of Washington. So I'm guessing that you gentlemen will probably be pretty user-friendly when it comes to permitting and pretty user-friendly when it comes to building code and the comprehensive plan. And so it's just getting it done and communicating it. So much of it is communication. I would say that earlier today was probably a communication gap, on my part too. So, I mean, these are all opportunities that we can get better. And areas that we have to get better if we're going to move into a direction where we're not just kind of bouncing from meeting to meeting and paying bills, but where we go, yeah, we've got those ideas are up on the board. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to reach. We're going to leave those road funds alone. We're going to create a public infrastructure fund that, better uses economic development dollars and also might be helpful in offsetting some of the costs Public Works would have. And then, and I still need to talk with Craig about this because I've seen him only utilize usually for right-of-ways and with those county road investment districts or improvement districts rather. There's potential there, not to mention the CPACE financing that we have talked about that I think is really attractive in certain ways and for certain things, and I think that it would fit really well in Franklin County. So that is my program today. If you had any questions, be sure to let me know. Commissioner Baumann, I still need to sit down with you and go over the big one, the big beautiful PowerPoint presentation. But if you had any suggestions, questions, comments, I'm all ears.
Commissioners?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for that presentation, Brian. A couple of comments.